the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us.
Tonight, you are invited on a journey through the last days and hours of Jesus' life. As you begin this journey, focus on what it means for the eternal God to become a man. Think about what it means that Jesus once stood in the same waters of our oceans, breathed the same air of our skies, and heard the same music of nature teeming with life, just like any one of us might. The God who created the world stepped into an ordinary human body. Take time to meditate on the mystery, majesty, and humility of Jesus, the Son of God.
Come and find the quiet center in the crowded life we lead. Find the room for hope to enter. Find the frame where we are freed. Clear the chaos and the clutter. Clear our eyes that we can see all the things that really matter. Be at peace and simply be. Silence is a friend who claims us, cools the heat and slows the pace. God it is who speaks and names us, knows our being, touches base, making space within our thinking, lifting shades to show the sun, raising courage when we're shrinking, finding scope for faith begun. In the Spirit let us travel, open to each other's pain. Let our loves and fears unravel, celebrate the space we gain. There's a place for deepest dreaming, there's a time for heart to care. In the Spirit's lively scheming, there is always room to spare.
They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took Peter and James and John with him. He began feeling despair and anxiety, and he said to them, "I am feeling deeply sad, as if I'm dying. Stay here and keep awake." And going a little further, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, he might be spared this time of suffering. And he said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Take this cup away from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." And he came and he found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you won't give in to temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes open, and they did not know how to respond to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping? Enough! The time has come. The human one is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's be going. See, my betrayer has come."
This scene reveals the sorrow in Jesus' heart that night. We hear and see the brokenness of a very real and very human Jesus. In this brokenness, he asks his trusted, beloved disciples to be with him, and they are not able. Take some time now to sit with Jesus as you remember your humanness, as you remember a time when you failed to be there for another. Gethsemane reminds us of those times when we were broken, and despite our inability to be with another, still, Jesus comes to be with us. Jesus abides with and within us and our brokenness.
Holy Jesus, how hast thou offended, that we to judge thee have in hate pretended, by foes derided, by thine own rejected, O most afflicted. For me, kind Jesus, was thy incarnation, thy mortal sorrow, and thy life's oblation, thy death of anguish, and thy bitter passion, for my salvation.
Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him there was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I kiss will be the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to Jesus at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Then they grabbed hold of Jesus and arrested him. But one of the bystanders who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were an outlaw? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." And all of them deserted him and fled.
Under the cloak of darkness, in the middle of the night, for fear of riots and violence, the chief priests, scribes, and elders come to arrest Jesus in the garden. It was not that this was their only time and place to arrest Jesus. and Jesus called them out. They could have arrested him earlier as he was teaching day after day. This intentional scheming in the dark was done for the benefit of those in power. We may think that we have nothing in common with the chief priests and elders, but think deeply. When do we sabotage or manipulate our lives or the lives of others under the cover of darkness? What is our internal monologue to ourselves? How does what we say to ourselves hurt what God is trying to achieve?
Was it who for profit's gain betrayed with fond embrace the Lamb of God to suffer pain, enduring my disgrace? Lord, is it I? Lord, is it I? Am I the one to blame? Is it for me that you must die? Is it for me you came? Who fled that day so fearfully, and who denied their Lord? Who chose Barabbas to go free? Who scourged Christ with the sword? Lord, is it I? Lord, is it I? Am I the one to blame? Is it for me that you must die? Is it for me you came? Have I betrayed him, mocked or fled? Have I my Lord denied? The cross is raised, but in my stead is Jesus crucified. Lord, is it I? Lord, is it I? Am I the one to blame? It is for me you chose to die. It is for me you came.
They took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests and the scribes and the elders were gathered. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. He was sitting with the guards, warming himself by the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. Then the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus said, "I am. And you will see the human one seated on the right side of the Almighty and coming with the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?" And all of them condemned him as deserving death. Now, at the festival, Pilate used to release a prisoner for them, whomever they wanted. And Pilate asked the people, "Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests had stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas for them instead. So Pilate replied, "Then what do you want me to do with this man you call the King of the Jews?" And they shouted back, "Crucify him!" Why? Asked Pilate. What evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him! So Pilate, wanting to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Year after year, we hear this story again and again. We try to imagine ourselves in Peter's shoes, or standing in the crowd, or even in Pilate's position, and we shudder at the horrific scene that plays out before us. How could Peter deny Jesus? How could the whole crowd choose to let a criminal go free while killing an innocent man, God's Son? How could Pilate live with himself? In what world would this happen? Peter lies and flees for fear that he will be hanged next to Jesus on the cross. Self-preservation takes over. The crowd that was cheering praises at Palm Sunday has now swiftly changed its tune because the Savior has not proven to be their miraculous, powerful, and swift warrior. Rather than go against the Romans, the mob has decided to rally again, change tactics, and self-preserve, even if it means choosing to release a dangerous criminal to the streets once again. And Pilate, he sees the writing on the wall. The Roman government is watching. Crucify Jesus, or risk the people rioting. Risk being labeled as the one who can't control his people. Someone will die. Jesus now, or Pilate later. The choice is simple. Give them Jesus and save Pilate. Pilate chooses self-preservation. We are not proud of these choices, and yet we make them anyway. When has the decision to save yourself, to keep your power, to keep the systems in place, won out? We justify our decisions with many excuses. Time, energy, money, our own helplessness. Our excuses are endless. Think of those times you became a part of the self-preserving crowd instead of the self-sacrificing kingdom of God.
O sacred head now wounded, with grief and shame weighed down, now scornfully surrounded, with thorns thine only crown. How pale thou art with anguish, with sore abuse and scorn. How does that visage languish, which once was bright as morn? What thou, my Lord, hast suffered was all for sinners' gain. Mine was the transgression, but thine the deadly pain. Lo, here I fall, my Savior, 'tis I deserve thy place. Look on me with thy favor, vouchsafe to me
they compelled Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus, who was just passing by, to carry Jesus' cross. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. They tried to give him some wine mixed with myrrh, but he would not drink it. Then they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide who would take what. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified Jesus, and the inscription of the charges against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 outlaws, one on his right and one on his left. People walking by insulted him and shaking their heads, saying, "You were going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also making fun of Jesus and saying among themselves, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. Let this Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him.
On Palm Sunday, the people were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." Now, just days later, many of those same people stand at the foot of the cross and use Jesus' words of love and peace as words of humiliation and ridicule. No longer do they see Jesus as the Savior, but Jesus as the fraud, and they are taunting him. "God, where are you? Where is your kingdom and power now? Show us your supposed power and we'll believe." Think now in your life. Have you ever questioned where God was in the midst of your life, wondering, if God would just do something, then I could believe. I would finally understand. I can finally move forward. Think now in your life on the struggles of faith without proof, faith without obvious results, faith in a God who does things completely different than we would expect. Did God not show up? Or did God show up differently than you wanted or imagined?
O Christ, you hang upon a cross the world has made, while soldiers hammer justice out where games of dice are played. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. In private thought, in public stance, we war against your word. The law of love is crucified, the lines of evil blurred. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison.
When it was noon, Darkness came over the whole land until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And at 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani? Which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, Listen, he's calling for Elijah. And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, Wait, let us see if Elijah will come and take him down. Then he gave a loud cry, and he breathed his last. And the curtain in the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. When the centurion who stood facing him saw how he had died, he said, Truly this man was God's son. Some women were watching from a distance, including Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James the Younger, and Joseph, and Salome. These women followed Jesus and supported him while he was in Galilee, and they were among many other women who had come up to Jerusalem with him.
My God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus cries out these words on the cross, searching for God. These are not far from words we have thought or uttered ourselves. And in response, God literally tears apart the curtain of the temple that divides the place of God and the place of humanity. Here, God shows them and us, I am right here with you. Come to me. And yet, we see Jesus' supporters, Mary Magdalene, Mary, Salome, and others, watching from afar, keeping their distance, afraid to get closer to Jesus. Can you see yourself on that hill? We imagine our place would be right next to Jesus. But we forget those times when we have been the ones standing at a distance. What's holding you back? When have you consciously or unconsciously kept your distance from God?
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree?
When evening had come, and since it was the day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also waiting expectantly for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. But Pilate wondered if Jesus were already dead. So he called the centurion and asked him whether Jesus had already died. When he learned from the centurion that Jesus was, in fact, dead, he granted the body to Joseph. Then Joseph bought a linen cloth, and taking down the body, he wrapped it in the linen cloth and laid it in a tomb that had been carved out of rock. He then rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where he was buried.
Can you sense the heavy weight the disciples and those who loved Jesus must have felt as Jesus' tomb was sealed? Death had won. This was a stone that no one could move. It was final. Jesus was gone and buried.
Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?